This is The Basketball Show with Shane the Hammer Heel and Steve Mr. Magic Carfino. Brought to you by Unibet, TCL Plex, and News Corp. What they gonna say next?
Welcome to The Basketball Show. I'm Jamie Soward. Thanks to Unibet, TCL Plex, and News Corp Australia. Alongside me is the Hammer, Shane Heel, the charity champs.
Good to have you back, mate.
Again.
How's that?
Let's go.
And how was your leadership in that game? I know you love basketball, you love Boston, you love the Kings, but, mate, great leadership in that game. You got it done. Yeah, got it done.
Would like to have been a little bit longer the game and get into a bit of a groove. But next year, I'm pretty sure the Kings will have us back on board. It was a great day had by all, and I love winning. I love beating the Magic Man.
Especially against Carfino.
Defending champions.
Talk to him. Little something.
Righto, let's get into it. Hammer time this week. What did you like? What didn't you like in the last regular season game of the NBL?
Well, I declared Melbourne United last week that they were going to win both games. And, you know, a lot of people said that they wouldn't get it done, but they're starting to look good. And when Chris Goulding gets involved, they are a completely different team. I mean, he can hit from everywhere. Such a confidence guy. And he has to be the focal point in their offense. Everybody else falls in behind him, and then they're okay. I think Will Weaver and the Kings, even though their results have been good, would be thinking, oh, this is the sort of team that has the talent, if they're able to pull it together, that they would be a little bit worried about.
And he's one of those players, Chris Goulding, he's got the bravado and swag that when he's on, you can see the chest come out of the Melbourne United players. They all, like you said, they fall in line. It's going to be a huge matchup between Bogut and Long. So much trash has been talked throughout the year. Corey Homicide, he's changing. He likes Long one week, he doesn't, some weeks.
He falls off pretty quick, my man, Homicide.
He does. We haven't heard from him about Sean Long lately, but now they're in the playoffs, they might come back.
But both those guys, their roles aren't as significant as they were last year, are they? We know how important Bogut is, and he will be incredibly important. Rested as well, so he could step up at the right time with his experience and be able to dominate the paint. But there's so many other critical pieces to both teams for that to happen. But I guess the other one that I wanted to talk about is the Brisbane Bullets. You know, Andre Lamanis recruited that team. He felt like he had the pieces to be able to win a championship, and he came out in their press conference after they won and said it was an injustice that they're not in the playoffs. What does that mean?
I have no idea. Look, I think the Brisbane Bullets are the most disappointing team in this season. They got Sobey up there. Glidden, never really found his groove. To come out that last game when you do need to win and, change your coaching philosophy as Lamanis did, it just shows the questions around Brisbane Bullets fans is why weren't we doing this at the start of the year? Why weren't we playing like this to give ourselves a position rather than having to wait to the last game and then all of a sudden scoring 134 points?
Yeah, and they did. He said in his press conference, he just said, let it fly, let's go, up tempo, let's play. Told Cam Glidden, he said in the press conference as well, that Andre came up and said, if you're open, slightly open, you need to shoot it. And I would have thought that that's what his job is, regardless of whether you've got to win by a lot. That's just what he is paid to be able to do. So, interesting. I think they have to go back to the drawing board. They can't over-recruit over key players they've got next year. But the big thing for Brisbane is, will they be able to retain some of those guys who will probably feel like they were burnt?
Yeah, they may have to get some more imports as well. We'll have to wait and see what the Brisbane Bullets do next year.
This is the Starting Five, brought to you by TCL Plex smartphones.
Starting Five, presented by TCL Plex. Shane Hill last night, the MVP Awards, the Andrew Gaze MVP Awards were on, and Bryce Cotton, the MVP for the second time in 3 years. Absolutely outstanding season he's had. Here's a little bit of what he had to say.
It's been a hell of a year for everybody. Scotty Machado, Scotty Hobson, Lamar. You guys played out of this world this year, and that's a testament to this league. But this is a celebration for the entire league, and we did a hell of a job this year. So we still got more work to do in a couple weeks, but let's enjoy everything tonight. Thank you.
Well, he is a superstar, and how's his speech? He's cocky at stages when he needs to be, backs himself, but so humble as well. Amazing season he's had, well deserved. I know Machado was awesome as well. And I got a soft spot for him as a point guard. Great job, very close, but most of the awards I think we were pretty close on.
Yeah, they're pretty close. I thought Scotty Machado was up there as well. I know you take winning into account, but he's had a fantastic season for the Cairns Taipans. Moving on, Will Magno now. There's some gossip around him picking up a 10-day contract in the NBA with the Golden State Warriors, and Cam Trigar broke the news during the game.
Yes, some breaking news out of Brisbane here at Nissan Arena. Brisbane Bullets shot blocking phenom Will Magno has just been offered an NBA 10-day contract by the Golden State Warriors. Magno was initially touted to go through the workout route and feel plenty of NBA attention in the off-season, but it is the Warriors who have acted first on this. They've thrown their hat in the ring. Magno is expected to accept if the Bullets season does end tonight.
Well, Cam Tragar getting it done. I love that breaking story, and he said he's got some pretty good sources around that, and Will Magno deserves nothing but that. But I was surprised that when it happened, straight away on Twitter, journos and people say, 100% hasn't happened. And from my experience, what ends up happening is that a lot of the journos get fed what they want to be fed. They're not going to tell them everything. As a player, an agent, and a club, you tell the journos what you want them to know. And he may not have the offer on the table or signed a deal or whatever else. But the fact that they're in some sort of discussions, I think, leads to that story. Is that the way you...
Yeah, that's the way I saw it. Look, I found it astonishing that so much hate came from this story when it's such a big occasion for the NBL because, if you just quickly explain the route that Mitch Creek had to take last year, he'd played in the Summer League, now you're getting we're getting people watch the NBL, pick guys straight out of the NBL. It's a lot tougher road than what Mitch Creek did last year.
Well, he'll be fast-tracked. If Will Magno, if this eventuates and he takes a 10-day contract, to be on that main squad of 15, for Steve Kerr and his coaching staff to be able to see him, knowing that they're going to be looking for minimum wage players next year with the money that's already spent, rather than going through Summer League with a whole lot of players from around the world that are desperate just to make vet camp. 24, 25 players, 15 roster spots. When you're in vet camp, each day you turn up and then there's one guy less, two guys less, you get on the bus and it's like, he's been cut. It's a tough environment to be able to go through. So good luck to him if he can get a 10-day contract. And you're right, this is fantastic for the NBL that we've got NBA coaches and executives really watching our players and understanding that our league can translate to being able to play in the NBA. We've seen it time and time again.
Yeah, certainly. And San Antonio Spurs star Patty Mills, the All-Star break is so important. All the stars get to have a rest. They either go to the game or they go on holiday somewhere else. But the Australian superstar has come back home and spent some time down in the fire-affected regions.
So now that we're here and we're on ground in Australia, this trip is about, number one, bringing people together, unity, to be able to help people that have been affected, and to be able to do it in a way that hopefully we can, not only bring supplies that are needed, but, a sense of hope for these people that hopefully we can bring. This is a very, genuine trip that we want to help these people. We want to be able to do, what we can for these people. And at the end of the day, that is what this trip is about. It's about them. It's about how we can help them to hopefully be able to get them to stand back on their feet and continue living in this, great land.
Well, that was off his social media, I think, Patty Mills. But we speak about the leadership that Patty's got within the San Antonio Spurs and has done for a long time on the court. But he's been inspirational in the communities, whether it's about bushfires or the Indigenous community. He really has been incredible for a superstar to be able to give up his time like that. We admire him.
Yeah, his maturity has really taken another level since Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Ginobili. Those guys have moved on, and you can see now his leadership role within the Spurs. He's been able to take that off the court and come back and spend time down under. I've absolutely loved all the stuff that he's been doing for his community, spending time down here. You can see some of the photos at Bunnings. That would have been a fair old bill.
He's destined for politics, I reckon. People will be going after him, when he retires and comes back to Australia, because I think he just does have that opportunity to be able to make a difference, to inspire people, give people hope like he spoke about, but he's just so well balanced.
And I think this will help the Boomers this year in the Olympics. Having him, another leader that's gone another step, to be able to manage some of the young guys that come in. It's an important year for Australian basketball to capitalise on the talent that we will have. You could see him pairing up with Ben Simmons, and Ben Simmons drive, penetrate, having a shooter like Paddy Mills going to be big.
That's on the court. The big thing for me is that the Boomers still need passionate guys like Bogut, Ingles, and Paddy Mills that just bleed for Australia, that is so desperate to put on the green and gold, and that's something that I hope we never lose.
Yeah, someone else that was passionate was Adelaide 36ers coach Joey Wright, coached in his 500th game on the weekend. Amazing press conference for Joey Wright to be able to end the season like this. Very disappointing for the 36ers, and he blew up in the press conference.
This is when guys, they have to have a reason to play. And in modern society, that's far too often. These guys get so much reinforcement from social media and people that's what they grow accustomed to make them get out and play. I mean, if they can't, they can't get out and play the game of basketball for the simple fact that I think it's one of the, biggest games in the world, then something's wrong. And obviously something was wrong. I love this game. I do a lot of other stuff besides show up here 2 hours, on Saturday and Sundays and coach. And those things are still viable. Those things are still there. I use this sport to really affect people in a positive way. It really distresses me when individuals don't use this sport and they use it for selfish reasons. And we had a lot of those guys this year that use it for selfish reasons. It is no way 3 or 4 of those guys were going to come out here and play for me on the 500. That just wasn't going to happen. If anything, they were going to play worse. But and DJ can attest to this, I haven't said one single word to them about it being my 500 and get up for me and do this, because it's not about me. It's about playing the game of basketball the way you should play the game of basketball. And if you can't do that and you totally just want to take from it and pillage from the game, then it's not somebody I want to be around.
Mate, that is a scathing press conference. The amount of times that Joey used them, pillage, selfish, not playing for him. There was obviously a lot of problems during the year, but I'm not sure I've seen a more divided sort of team, and that press conference just sort of magnifies everything that's been going on in that team all year, and the results sort of played out like it.
That's his last game as coach for the Adelaide 36ers, or will they stick with him and there's a full clean out of all the players? Because you look at what's gone on down there again. They've got some really good players that just haven't been able to get it all together. He spoke about the imports. He spoke about the selfishness. It either has to go one way. Ownership either pick the coach or they pick the players.
Well, I mean, it sounds like the ownership don't want Joey, if you believe all of the reports. But Joey's going, mate, I'm here for 2 years, so you pay me or I'm here. But you would think that Joey's probably not going to be there. They'll come to some sort of arrangement, but whether they stick with the same sort of players as well is yet to be seen. So
poor old DJ. I've been in those press conferences, and it's not easy to sit there and listen to your coach talk about you like that. The New Zealand Breakers, some key signings to be able to get next year. They've got Finn Delaney and Rob Lowe. Good signings for the New Zealand Breakers. They've got 4 Tall Blacks under contract now. It's an important time for them to be able to go through the New Zealand playoffs, but also get those key guys in for next year.
They are on the right track. And it was turmoil early in the year with some of their selections and injuries. They imploded, which really was the reason why they didn't make it. But I really like Finn Delaney. I think he was going to be one of the hottest properties in the open market. To have a 4-man that plays with that sort of desire, that sort of toughness, he's smart, he can play inside and out. That is a great signing with Abercrombie, Lowe, these guys. They've put together a really good base to be able to build from. If they were able to hold on to Hobson next year, who's a superstar, Hobson could be one of the top couple of players in the entire competition.
Are they going to be able to hold on to him?
Well, I think they can. I think they need to get aggressive, try and sign him. No doubt he'll go to Europe in the next couple of weeks. I know that for a fact. He's going to go to Europe. He'll get paid some good money. But if you were the owner or coach of that team, you'd be trying to sign him right now.
Yeah, very good, exciting news for the New Zealand Breakers ahead of next year. Let's go courtside now with our correspondent, Nick Lakovic.
Well, what a disappointing way for the Adelaide 36ers to close out their regular season. They had a real opportunity here to finish their year on a high for Joey Wright in his 500th game. No Cotton, no White, no worries. Why? Because of the play of all NBL first team Nick Kay. He continues to develop a reputation of delivering in big moments for the Wildcats, and he did so on Saturday night at RAC Arena. 23.7 rebounds, 2 block shots. The difference here, one team has cohesion and chemistry built on culture and leadership. The Adelaide 36ers, a clear example of that being missing. Eric Griffin, 2 minutes in this game. I guess that'll be his last game in the Adelaide 36ers uniform. Jerome Randall and Ramon Moore, question marks there. And also a question mark over whether or not Joey Wright will continue in his last 2 years as head coach for the 36ers. One thing for sure is, with Joey, he always brings the truth, heart, toughness, and honesty. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Interested to hear your thoughts back in the studio.
Yeah, we just spoke a little bit about that. It'll be intriguing to see what happens there. But let's get down south and hear what our man PK has to say about Melbourne.
Well, the Brisbane Bullets almost pulled off perhaps the greatest Houdini act in NBL history to sneak into the playoffs. Unfortunately, Melbourne ruined their party, but the Bullets did it by going back in time. They just unleashed the pressure defense up the floor, constantly trapping, sliding, getting the ball out of dangerous players' hands. And of course, it wasn't that many years ago that NBL games often looked like that. The refs used to allow a lot of bump and grind. Teams would target gun point guards, get it out of their hands, wear them down physically. And you saw on Saturday how much of an effect that had on a quality player like Scott Machado. He was forced into a lot of turnovers. He wasn't able to set the table, and the Taipans struggled. And first thing that came to mind is, the huge credit to guys like Cedric Jackson, Gary Irvin, Scotty Wilbekin, the guys who could handle that night in, night out and still be really effective. The other thing that occurred to me is, the NBL's deliberately called the game really tight to get that sort of scrappiness out, make the game look more attractive. But just the last couple of weeks, we've started to see a little bit more contact go. So what's it going to look like in the finals? Are the Wildcats going to be able to get after Machado, get the ball out of his hands, make this a low-scoring scrap? Same with Sydney against Melbourne. Are they going to be able to apply a heap of physicality? Are we going to see the 100-point games, or is it going to be in the 70s or 80s? I think it's going to have a big impact on who prevails, especially in the Cairns-Perth series.
Well, Hammer, I think PK's excited about the physicality. He's over the moon about a little bit of bump and grind.
Yeah.
He's happy with it.
And he's right. That's what used to happen all the time with point guards. You get somebody that just face guarded you the whole time. Surprised it doesn't happen more. I like a little bit more physicality, but we want our stars to shine as well.
Yeah, you certainly do. Let's head up north to Derek Rocca and his summary of the Brisbane Bullets' final game.
Yeah, and in a must-win big game, the Brisbane Bullets handled their business, knocking off the Taipans by 36 points here in Brisbane. Unfortunately, Melbourne United took care of their business and knocked the Bullets out the next day. But the game was a real insight into what could have been for the Bullets, but more importantly, it shows what could be in the future. Now, look, the Bulls will most likely lose Will Magno next season, so they'll have to find a big-time replacement in there. But realistically, the Bullets have a really good shot next year of being a championship contending team. I thought this year they had enough pieces to give the championship a shake. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. They'll have to retool for next season. The Cairns Taipans are limping into the playoffs, and Coach Mike Kelly is under the pump now. He must find a way to get this team refocused and centered back and playing the type of basketball they were a few weeks ago. They've got the FIBA window to use to their advantage. Let's see if he can do that. The Perth Wildcats are the toughest draw in league history. Good luck to all four of the finals teams. It's going to be a great playoff series. See you guys.
Can't wait for the NBL playoffs in a couple of weeks. Of course, that FIBA window opens up now. But the NBL outsiders, Shane Hill, let's talk about the teams that didn't make the playoffs. We've covered a lot of them. We've covered the Breakers and the Adelaide 36ers. Let's talk about the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix and their roster going forward. Some interesting comments a bit from Simon Mitchell about how they want to rebuild around Dane Pineau. Is this the right way to go, or will they need a little bit more help to be able to make the playoffs next year?
Yeah, interesting that you would build around Dane Pineau, and he's had a fantastic year, he really has. He's gone from virtually just playing a couple of minutes a game to starting the entire year, and we all know that he's had games of 18 and 20 rebounds. So that's an amazing effort, but they've got to get an American big. I'm not sure that Dane is the starting five-man on a team that's going to win a championship. I think he's a terrific role player, and that will continue to evolve. I think you build around Creek. I think you've got Robertson has to get signed. I think they've got Ty Wesley already done. Guys like Ben Madgen are fantastic for the team as well, but they need more help from their other import, and that's the area that they lacked this year. They just couldn't get it done, and they need to improve on their defence. Their defence this year was horrendous at stages, giving up 100 points a game. So lowly ranked on what they'd got done.
It's so important, the imports. From an outsider in the NRL, obviously we don't have many guys, the imports that come over, but you can really be chalk and cheese. You look at what the Kings have done this year with their roster in depth. The Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, they're going to have to get deep all over and be able to have those guys competing and pushing the imports to be able to make a leap next year.
Well, I think the blueprint is what Mike Kelly's been able to do so well. He's got 3 gun imports that have played their role perfectly. Probably should have had 2 in the first team All-Star, in my opinion, and then they've got the Defensive Player of the Year in Newble. So I think if you use that basis for Southeast Melbourne with some of the other key pieces they've got, they'd be in the 4 as well.
Now let's talk about another team that struggled this year, the Illawarra Hawks. Their roster needs a complete overhaul. Hammer, they had LaMelo Ball, which came in, which was great coverage for the NBL. He got Rookie of the Year last night, but in terms of their whole roster and being successful, this community needs this team to be good. They really need an overhaul.
Well, it was a debacle from the start. And Matt Flynn, I thought his first signing Josh Boone, who from all reports is one of their most expensive players that they've got, just was terrible when they already had Ogilvy. So 2 guys that are earning a big portion of the salaries in the same position, and we're playing in an undersized league. You don't need 2 5-men. And then they tried to start both of them. So it was doomed from the start. I thought Brooks was a good signing. It was unfortunate that they lost him to an Achilles. He would have put up big numbers all year. The positive for me about this roster is that I love Blanchfield. Detch has been a revelation. I think he's a guy that could really play significant minutes. Maybe not as a starter if you've got American guards, but he is really good. Glover's got huge upside as well. So I think they've got the nucleus to be able to grow from if they get the right imports.
Yeah, they're going to have to be very good next year to be able to overhaul both their rosters, the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix and the Illawarra Hawks.
It's time now for the Unibet game preview. Who's hot? Who's not?
Unibet NBL results this week for Shane Heal. He's been on fire all year and he continues the trend, getting 5 out of 6, Hammer.
Yeah, we like that. Got plenty of people following those tips as well, 50% at the margin. So, Unibet won't be too happy with that. But no NBL this week, mate. We're off to the Boomers.
Yeah, off to the Boomers. They played 2 games this week. They played New Zealand on Thursday night, then they play Hong Kong. A very inexperienced Boomers side. But this might be the chance for the Tall Blacks to be able to kick in and get a win over the Aussies.
Well, have a look at a lot of these guys that, you know, some of those guys obviously wouldn't have got opportunities if our NBA guys and the top 4 teams have had players available as well. But one guy I want to point out, Josh Giddey, an ex-teammate of mine, it's his son, Warwick Giddey, the great king was. Great to see him going so well. Josh playing really well on the junior level, huge upside. Colleges and talking NBA and all the rest of it. So good opportunity to see that. And I used to love playing against the Tall Blacks. Congratulations to Pero Cameron. He'll have his squad ready to go. It's going to be a tough matchup for that young squad against Pero's crew.
Yeah, that's on Thursday night. Now time for the Unibet NBA preview. Shane Heal, Brooklyn Nets at Philadelphia. I'm going the Nets.
Going the Nets. Philly are great at home. They absolutely stink it up on the road. But at home, I think they've only lost 2 games all year. So I would favour them to be able to get the win.
I want them to keep losing. Of course, Jonah Bolden has picked up a 10-day contract with the Phoenix Suns. They're at the Toronto Raptors.
And he was good in his first game. Good numbers. Played about 26 minutes in his first game. Playing against Toronto, though. Toronto, my favourite team in the league right now. Love Nick Nurse. Love the way these guys play. Toronto will win that 11+.
Yeah, Toronto for me as well. Houston Rockets at the Utah Jazz. I'm going the Jazz.
Oh, I don't like the Rockets at all. We know that. But I do love Joey and the Jazz. So I think they will be able to get it done.
And the last one is my Celtics.
Your boys.
My Celtics at the LA Lakers. I'm going Celtics, of course.
Well, I'll be tuning into that game, but they won't win. I think the Lakers will be too strong.
We'll have an orange juice on it. Okay. That, of course, all the NBA preview for Unibet. Make sure you subscribe to Apple Podcasts. Thanks for joining us. Of course, Unibet, TCL Plex and News Corp Australia. We'll see you next week.
This is a co-production by News Corp Australia and Closer Sports.